This is Stephanie with Hightower Stitching, and today's video is finding stars in my tumbling blocks. Today's video is getting ready to set up to sew this hexagon that's got a star in the middle and then a cream border around the outside. But the funny thing is, if you look at it really closely, let me get my stick, can you find a tumbling block or more? One of the easiest ones to find is this one right here, a side, and the top of the block. See if that helps you to find some others. And some of them will even look turned differently because of the way the colors are done in the star. Because look at this one, now the top's on the side, and then there are the other two sides and are sitting going out, and the same thing going over here. The tumbling block quilt is one that's so much fun because you can just put those rectangles together with plain fabric, and then you start to see all the tumbling blocks in there. But then all of a sudden, if you look real closely, you start seeing stars. And so what we've done on this quilt is gone ahead and highlighted the stars that are in the quilt. And it's basically going to be two things. They're going to be stars, six units that are sewn together here, and then six more on the outside. All of those are the same pattern piece. I like to show you as I'm going how the quilt is, because once I get finished with it, it's really hard to go back and reconstruct. So what I'm going to do with this one, like some of the others, is I'm going to show you where I am and where I started from. And then part two, I'm going to be doing this stitching, the hand stitching example, but it'll be on the end screen, so you won't have to look for it. So the first thing I want to go to is the material to do this project. This project can be done with a variety of materials. You can go to, if you have some extra pieces left from other quilts, you can go and use those pieces. The colored, the print, just takes a small amount to do that. This one I knew I was probably going to make a little larger quilt this time than just a lap quilt. And I wanted it to be colorful. Well, this is one thing that I do sometimes is I went earlier, like maybe even 2 years ago, and I bought a kit that was very colorful, but I knew I wasn't going to make it because the pattern was so busy, but I was getting a good price on the fabric, and I trusted the place where I was getting it. So I ordered that kit, and this material's been sitting there waiting for a project, and this is the project. And so I had quite a variety, and I had to think about how I was going to choose things. So everything in the front row towards you are pieces that I've already started using right there. These are pieces that I might want to use, and then even down into these. And these were ones I was pretty sure I wasn't going to do because of the color that I'm using to join the different shapes. And then you'll see I've got the yellow sitting out, and there were actually 3 choices of yellow. But I've learned through time, some colors are really dominant, and they really just steal the show. And I thought, I'm just going to add some yellow, a few yellow, that will just accent what's going on there. So I may not even go over and do these 2 yellows at all. And then that brings us to the backing. And I had 2 different shades of fabric, and I knew it was going to take a good bit, because if you're going to go larger on this, you're looking at like 4.5 yards of the fabric for the cream. Now, this is only talking about the front. And what happened was I took both of them. I had these other pieces laying out here, and I set them on top, and all of a sudden it was just like one of them belonged. It was a member of the family, so to speak. And so that was the one that I picked, and I'm really pleased with it. And it actually has a very, very faint little brown dot in it. So every time I cut out, I had to be careful and make sure I had a lot of light. So if I cut in layers, I could always get that dot being down so that it was going to be in the right way to put the dots on it. And this video is thinking about a beginning quilter. And one of the things that I've done forever, and some people don't, and there's a lot of things that are optional ways of doing in quilting, but one of them is I like the soft feel of the cotton fabric. So I actually will rinse it in the washing machine, and I usually do it as soon as I get it. Then I never have to worry when I go to the shelf whether something's been done, or I leave it sit by the washing machine and do it when I have time. And that even goes for the fat quarters. And what I do with the fat quarters is I take a laundry bag, one of those mesh ones, and depending on how many I'm going to put in there, I use this different size bag. But I'll put a good many in that bag and then wash it with the other fabric that I do the yardage. And then when I take it out, I smooth it and then I put it in the dryer for a little while to get the most of the moisture out of it. And I've really been pleased with that. I don't have, because I put enough in the bag, I don't have a whole lot of trouble with the edges unraveling. And I'll show you sort of right here. It doesn't seem to interfere with the amount that I need. After you get your fabric sort of in your mind the way you want to do it, you've got to look for a template. Now, this was really fun because you don't have a template, and I can't really figure out how to make you one that you can get off the internet right now. But I did find out it really is easy to make one. And so the one for this quilt, this is the main template. And this is 14 centimeters going across. I use centimeters because it's so easy to be exact rather than inches. And what you do is draw a beginning at your 0, go all the way across, draw a line 14 centimeters. All right, then come into the center, which would be 7, and put a dot. At 7, draw a line going up 4 centimeters, and then you can go ahead and trace that line. You then take and do your second one and go 4 centimeters down. You don't really need to trace the line, but it's neat. All right, then let's connect. You're going to connect this side to this one and this point to this one. We're already starting our point to point, and go down and go down. And you're going to be surprised. Let me show you if you can tell that when I set the original one down on the shape, it was perfect. I didn't have to go on the internet. That's what I started to do and look something up, but that worked. All right, and so the second piece that you're going to need near the end, because there are going to be some half blocks, and this is the cream fill-in for the half blocks. And if you look at this one, it's 9 centimeters across with your point in the middle, and then go up 8 centimeters. And then you're going to connect all of those around. Now, where you make those connections, you automatically have the little corner. When you draw your 1/4 inch line, really is what does it. Do your seam allowance at 1/4 inch. And when you do those all the way across, then when they cross each other, you'll see that you have the dot right at the corner. And that's going to be important in a minute. Same thing happens on your other piece. Go in and mark your 1/4 inch, your 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch for your seam. And then you're going to see where that place comes up. That's going to be our dot to dot, our start to stop dots. And to make my template, I used a manila folder, and I used it laying together and then stapled my pattern piece, my template on top, and cut it out. And that makes it pretty stable. I've already cut a lot of pieces using that. This is the next piece of the cream that I'm going to cut, and I've got it folded in half right now, but for you to see it, and you can see faint lines. Well, on this fabric, a mechanical pencil works really well. And so I took my template, and I have a selvage at the top. And I came down below the selvage. I took a line, made a line across there, and made that the top. All right, and then I started I laid that on there. I traced it around the outside. And while I had it sitting there, and I still had my mechanical pencil, I actually made the dot that is right there, and that one, and that one, and that one. So when I got done, half of my pieces that I cut would already have the dot in them that I'm going to need when I sew these together. So I moved that away, and I just went all the way across. Then I came back and I started and I got it again. And I found out that this is 42-inch material folded in half, that 2 rows will give you, will equal 6 inches. And out of that 6 inches, you can get 28 of those templates, and that would be enough to make 6. The centers of 6 of those hexagons we're working on. I know that's a lot of information, but once you start and get ready to cut out, but one thing I will tell you again is that it's always smart to make one block. So cut out 6 of the color that you really like. Cut out 6 of the cream, put your dots on those, and then sew those together. And I'm going to do that in part 2. And I have notes laying around, but I wanted you to know that if you were going for a bigger quilt, you can stop anytime you want to once you start making it. But if you were going to go big, like 78 by 84 inches, you were going to need about 95 hexagons. And that would include the halves that you would need on the side, because that would be 8 in a row plus your halves. And like I said before, if you go that big, you're going to need like 4.5 yards of the cream. And the last part has to do with marking the very corners where you're going to start and stop. You can see my little holes right there. You can take a nail, and it's not going to need be this big of a hole. You can take a nail and the hammer and then do each one of those. And I've done that for years, till this year I bought a nifty little 1/8 inch hole punch, which wasn't very expensive. And I've used it for a number of things, and you would just slide it in there and set it as close as you could to where it would cover that part of that circle, and then punch it down in there. And I did that for both of them, you can see. And you can see this one's been well used already. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. This is the beginning of a beautiful, fun tumbling quilt using the star variation. If you enjoyed this video and think you might go on, please subscribe and hit like. If there are any things that I forgot to say or some things I just want to reiterate, I will put those in the description. And I'd love to have comments. Thank you.